to Leadership Beyond Burnout. This is the sanctuary for leaders who are done pretending everything's fine while silently running on fumes. Here, we explore what it truly means to heal, lead, and succeed without sacrificing your soul or your sanity. In each episode, we invite bold, brilliant minds who've navigated burnout, breakthrough, and bold reinvention. Today, I will be your guest. So I'm really excited about today's episode. Now, this isn't just leadership as usual. This is the revolution of the resilient. And you're invited to pull up a seat at the fire. So let's dive straight into it. So today's episode is entitled Regulated to Rise, Why Your Nervous System is the Real New Year's Reset. When we talk about showing up differently in the new year, most leaders start with goals, planners, and hustle. They're doing all their strategic planning this month. Very few start with the one system that actually runs the show. And that's your nervous system. Today, we're talking about what really has to change. Now, if you're going to show up for yourself, your team, and your family in a new way, not this new year, new me that never seems to carry through the year for people, but more like new year, new regulated me. Because if your body is stuck in survival mode, no resolution in the world is going to stick. And if you stay until the end, you'll understand why your system flips into overdrive or shutdown, and how that quietly wrecks your leadership and your relationships. So we're looking more holistically. And how inside Phoenix Rising VIP, we use what I call our reset to bring you back into a calm, capable mode. So I call it the Phoenix Breath Reset. So beyond the new year, new me, every January, we have burned out high achievers who write these big, hairy, audacious goals. And they do that on top of a completely exhausted nervous system. We say, this year I'll be more present. This year I'll set more boundaries. This year I'll stop people pleasing. But here's the real truth. Most people miss. You cannot mindset your way past a dysregulated body. It's what undergirds your mindset. Adaptive leadership at work and at home starts with your physiology. With the system that decides before you even think, am I safe? Or am I under threat, under duress? And that system is your autonomic nervous system. And I promise you we won't get too sciencey, but we're going to have a few terms so that we are on the same page. Think of it this way. Your sympathetic nervous system is your gas pedal. All go. Your parasympathetic nervous system is your brake. Now, when your autonomic nervous system is balanced, you are what some therapists may call the window of tolerance. And that's the zone where you feel stressed, but you're still calm, cool, clear, collected, and capable. All those C's. Now, you can think, you can listen, you can choose how to respond. It's not automatic. Now, this is the state we want you leading from and loving from at work, at home, and in your own life when you show up for yourself. So let's make this simple on the nervous system. Your nervous system has three main modes that we're going to focus on today. The first mode is going to be hyperarousal. And this is when our sympathetic nervous system that we said was all gas is in overdrive. Your gas pedal is just slammed to the floor. It might feel like racing thoughts, over analyzing everything, your heart pounding, shallow breathing, and you're just always on. I call it sometimes always on 10. At work, hyperarousal might look like you can't stop checking emails. You jump in to fix every problem. You interrupt in meetings because silence feels unsafe. At home, that hyperarousal might look like snapping over small things, replaying conversations for hours, figuring out how it can be better or where you went wrong or where it went wrong. Not being able to turn off and be with the people you love because you're on go, go, go. So the second mode we want to discuss is hypoarousal. Now, this is under activation. This is where your brake is stuck. It can feel like being numb, checked out. You notice it with that far off stare, and where nothing really matters. It mimics like a depressed state. At work, hypoarousal can look like dragging yourself to your laptop, staring at tasks and not starting, possibly even procrastinating, avoiding hard conversations because they feel like too much, like you just can't do that today. At home, hypoarousal, it can look like just collapsing on the couch.
Please provide more context so I can help you.
Scrolling in silence. Saying I don't care or do whatever. Not because you don't care, but because there's nothing in that tank. That gas tank is just empty. Now, mode 3 that we mentioned is the window of tolerance. Now, this is when your gas and your brake are in balance. You are flowing with the traffic. Everything is going well. You still feel stress. You still feel pressure. But inside, internally, and externally, you look cool. You look calm, collected, capable, and present. You have the capacity to have hard conversations without exploding or shutting down. And you've seen it. If you haven't seen it in yourself, maybe you don't recognize it. You've absolutely seen it in other people. You have the ability to receive feedback without going into shame or defense, because you aren't really learning or taking in information if you're experiencing shame or being defensive. You can be with your family and actually be with them, not just being in the room. So none of these modes, I want to make that clear, make you a bad person per se, or at all. These are just different states. So hyperarousal, hypoarousal, and window of tolerance. They're not moral judgments. They are your nervous system conditions. Let's talk about how this dysregulation begins to show up in real life more. And just getting very real and transparent about it. First, with hyperarousal. Picture like a leader whose calendar is packed from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They're just stacked up in that phone. They answer emails at red lights. You've seen that. maybe you've even done that. They jump into every Slack thread. They sometimes redo everyone's work at midnight. Um, they might even be micromanaging, maybe or maybe not. Um, then they complain that they're the only one who seems to care because they're in overdrive, and maybe other people are just they're in that window of tolerance. On the outside, they may look like they're driven, right? That positive trait. But on the inside, their system is screaming. If I slow down, everything will fall apart. If I don't do it, who will? Nobody will. So this looks like saying yes to too many projects. I can't tell you how relieved I was when I stopped volunteering for everything. And if not volunteering, not having the capacity to say, I can't really get that because I was told this was the priority. So that's where my focus is. They may push their team into constant fire drills where everything is on fire. And we know when everything is on fire, nothing is on fire, nothing is important. They could micromanage because control feels like safety. And this is what their team learns. Don't take risks because they'll just change it anyway. So there's your innovation out the window. Uh, don't bring problems because you'll explode them into this huge elephant that it doesn't need to be instead of problem solving it and addressing it. So that is when your hyperarousal state is leading in the room. Now, with hypoarousal, imagine a director or VP who used to be on fire and now it feels like their light is just kind of dimmed. It's gone out. They may join meetings and keep the camera off. Um, they may let others talk under the guise of just getting a sense of how everyone is processing information or reading the room and letting everyone share. Um, they may say, I'm fine with whatever the group decides. And that can look like apathy or it can look like agreeableness and willing to work and collaborate with the team. Their inbox is full of hard messages that they haven't answered, right? They stay unread and they're still dark and they just glaze over them, fearful of reading what it says. They may not have the capacity to respond. Performance reviews are late that people need for feedback to move forward. They might scroll after work instead of planning the next day just to escape and not have to engage and respond. It may even look like laziness, or they are putting their work off on others, or giving others the opportunity to step up. It feels like I literally cannot do another thing. I cannot process any more information. I'm done. Stick a fork in me. Now, what does this look like at home? At home, this same person comes in the door, they drop their bag or drop your pack if you're in the military, and they stare at the TV. Or they just sit in silence and don't do anything. This doesn't mean that they don't love their family deeply, but their bodies have hit shutdown to survive. I can't have anyone ask another thing of me. They'd like to just disappear into the wallpaper. It might even look like they're enjoying just observing the family, or they're just sitting there with a blank stare. So here's the key with these states. In hyperarousal, your nervous system doesn't feel safe. So it tries to control everything to create a sense of safety, physical, psychological, emotional safety. In hypoarousal, your nervous system doesn't feel safe or resourced. So it shuts down just to protect you. Both states make adaptive leadership almost impossible because you're not choosing from your best regulated self. You're reacting from your survival self in survival mode. Adaptive leadership is not just a framework, it's nervous system capacity. It's the ability to read the room, tolerate discomfort, uh, and stay connected to people while you make hard calls. You cannot do that well from panic or collapse. Here's a simple mantra that you can take into the new year: regulate, relate, and respond. So let's dig into that just a little bit. Regulate. Before you send the email, regulate. Before you call the meeting, regulate. Before you talk to your partner, to your kids, to your friends. You pause, you breathe deeply, not shallowly, right into your belly. Imagine it being a balloon and expanding. You bring your body a little closer to the window of tolerance when you do this. That second R, relate. Now that your system is a bit calmer, maybe not all the way calm, but it's a little more stable or more awake, you can ask, what am I actually feeling in this moment? Or what might they be feeling in this moment? That should help you to be able to relate, to get into different states of where you are and where the other person is, or persons. What does the team feel like? Where is your family? What are they feeling right now? Third, that third R is respond. Okay. And from there, you can choose a behavior that reflects your values, and it's not just from fear or fatigue. And even though I'm saying all this, I know that sometimes, because we all learn differently, um, we need different ways of learning, different ways of explaining things. So let's put this into some scenes. In a hypoarousal scene, imagine it's 11 p.m. You're furious about a drop ball, and then you want to just fire off a long, sharp, pointed email. Remember, we're not doing that. We're going to regulate. Give yourself 3 minutes before you do that. Sit up, put your shoulders back, plant your feet firmly on the floor, get grounded. Inhale slowly, expand your belly. Exhale longer than you inhale. And you can do that for a few rounds, as many times as it takes to get you in a less hyper-aroused state. When we think relate in this scenario, you name what it feels like. Maybe you're hurt. Maybe you're hurt and scared about this deadline. Possibly there are some major consequences that occur by this. That hurt might be coming from the fact that you trusted someone to get this done and you were disappointed. Now, the response or respond in this scenario, maybe you go ahead and type that email, but you save it as a draft, right? You sleep on it. Don't send it anywhere because it's nice and safe in your email, in your drafts, and you schedule a short, clear meeting for the next day. This is where you can address the issue calmly and directly. You've had some opportunity to rest, you've gotten yourself grounded, and you have more of your cognitive processes available instead of that hyper-aroused state. If we want to go to the hypoarousal scene, imagine you've been putting off a performance conversation for weeks. You're concerned about how that person may respond. Or maybe you're concerned about how you might deliver the information. So every time you think about it, your stomach just drops. And I bet you can relate to a situation right now where that has happened. Your energy just vanishes. It goes away. To regulate in this situation, you could do 2 minutes of gently activating your breath. Right? And that might be some jumping jacks if you have the time and the space to do so. It might be taking a brisk walk outside or around the office. Right now, this time of year, as I'm recording this, it is winter season, and that cold weather will just be great at activating you. Maybe it's you shaking out your arms and legs, just kind of activating yourself. In this scenario, relate might look like you admitting to yourself, I don't like conflict. I'm afraid of conflict. And I'm afraid of failing this person by staying silent, by allowing them to stay in this unoptimized state. In this scenario, the response might look like you scheduling a 20-minute check-in using a simple script, and just let it be imperfect, but you have the conversation. In both cases, you are slowly training your system that stress is tolerable. It's okay. You can get through this. And really, even if you think back to all the stressful situations that you've overcome to this point in your life, that little performance evaluation is nothing compared to what you've overcame. So you can feel this and still choose how you want to show up. This is the show up shift we're aiming for, right? Not the avoidance or that hyperdrive, that hyper aroused state where you are just plowing through everyone and everybody, even yourself. And change can feel terrible at first. So now, even when you start regulating, change itself still has a pattern. And we're going to use this pattern. We're going to use a simple 30-day arc of habit change. And this is not mine. I'm stealing this from Hal Elrod in his Miracle Morning. And I really love how it frames change. So if we're taking this 30-day arc and we look at days 1 through 10, it's often going to feel unbearable. He calls this the unbearable stage. Everything in you protests. You don't want to do it. It feels, you say, this is awkward. This is stupid. This is too much work. Why are we doing it this way? I know I do not like change, especially change that I'm not expecting. Your old coping patterns are just screaming, why are we doing this? What we were doing was fine. But those old coping patterns keep you stuck, right? Keep you stuck in these dysregulated states. In days 11 through 20, Hal Elrod calls this it's unbearable and uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is the next stage. During this stage, you start to notice, okay, this isn't as awful as it was. It's a little better. I kind of like how I feel after I do it, but it still feels kind of odd. This is when your old habits and new habits are in a wrestling match, so to speak, trying to figure out who's going to win, because sometimes this is where the race for change is lost. The battle is lost if we stop at days 11 through 20. In days 21 through 30, and I thought this was a really interesting part because Hal Elrod mentions that if people take into account that advice of it only takes 21 days to develop a habit, that they miss the full development to where you become unstoppable, that you really need 30 days to really lean into it. So days 21 through 30, this is the unstoppable phase. Your brain and your body begin to recognize a new behavior as safer. Maybe not completely safe, but you've done it for 30 days. And then you found out it wasn't that bad. You're more efficient, less exhausting than the old way that you were doing it. It's really difficult to go back to something that wasn't functional after you've been doing and engaging in a more effective system with a regulated nervous system. Here's the problem, though. Excuse me, I need a little water. If your nervous system is stuck in hyper or hypoarousal, you never often get past the first 10 days. We will see this. If you're a regular gym goer, you will see this in the first 10 days, 10 days when the gym is open. And you cannot get in the parking lot, or you're parked way in the back because everybody is there for the new year, new me. So you want to try a new boundary. You want to try a new morning routine. You want to try a new way of responding to your team. But this is what happens. Your system screams, this is too much. What are you doing? Hyper kicks in, you overdo it, right? You do it with all the gusto, and then you crash because it was overwhelming. If hypoarousal kicks in, you just check out and drop it because it's like, ugh, this is just too much. I don't like it. And you quit. You quit on yourself. Not because you're weak. Let's not diminish ourselves in that way. But because no one taught your body how to feel safe. Safe enough to stay with the discomfort or the change. That's why a nervous system work it isn't a side quest, right? It is the very foundation for change, to create the leadership, the life, the love that you want. And this is why I want to invite you to Phoenix Rising in as a VIP, you'd actually learn Phoenix Breath Reset. Because how do you actually teach your body a new way of being? One of the fastest, most direct doors into your nervous system is your breath. And I'm not talking breathing techniques, because we all know breathing techniques. Most people try to use box breathing. However, the reset is really breath work. So inside the VIP level of Phoenix Rising, we do something I call the Phoenix Breath Reset. And it's not just relaxing breathing exercises, as I said. It's the intentional sessions designed to help your system come down from hyperarousal, so you're not leading from constant fight or flight, and gently lift you out of hypoarousal so that you can feel alive, motivated, and all this without shocking your system in some dramatic, drastic way that you'll abandon. This is how you begin to, in the VIP, expand your window of tolerance so that stress no longer automatically means explode or shut down. In the VIP, we pair that breath work with coaching tools and all the other exercises that the regular members get in. And so allows you to use your regulated sets. This allows you to use your regulated state to set boundaries that actually hold, that are sustainable. This allows you to have hard conversations without collapsing, because how many of our relationships is communication a problem at work and at home because we're just not having the conversations. In the VIP, it builds habits that make it past those first 10 unbearable days. So if you're listening to this and thinking, that's my nervous system, that is my life, I'm going into hyperarousal or hypoarousal, I want you to know that you're not broken. You are just dysregulated. And regulation is teachable. It's not just who you are and how you are. You can learn, you can practice, you can conquer and overcome and implement a new system in your life. So here are 3 questions I want to leave you with. Number 1, where have you been trying to think or plan your way out of a nervous system problem? Because the plans aren't working, are they? But just think about that. Second question, what would shift in your leadership, in your home, in many of your relationships, if calm, capable was your default and not a rare accident where you were secure in your ability to respond? Third question, are you willing in this upcoming year to stop white knuckling it alone and let yourself be supported in learning and leaning into a new way to show up? I bet when I was asking those questions, maybe your body gave a quiet yes to that. If it did, then Phoenix Rising VIP and the Phoenix Breath Reset, it might be your next right step. I'm going to put the link in the comment section. We begin January 5th. If you are watching this at the end of 2025, I thank you for being here with me today. You can find us here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 2 p.m. Pacific. I'm your host, Dr. Kimberly L. Wilson. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you inside Phoenix Rising VIP so that we can get that nervous system regulated. Until next time.